And welcome to part 2 of Tissues Lab. This will be a 3-part video. I wanted to break it down into 3 parts so you guys will have a little bit more easy time digesting it. So we're going to start with the connective tissues today, and we'll focus on it because there's a lot of them. And then we'll look at muscle and nerve together by themselves and the membranes. So this section, what we want to do is, let's look at what it does. So last class we finished off the glands. Now let's talk about connective tissues. One of the things connective tissues do is they connect. What do they connect? They connect epithelium to the rest of the body. So things like your reticular lamina, for example, that's connective in nature. Okay, it binds structures together. For example, the periosteum of bone. It provides structure, things like bone and cartilage. It helps protect organs and soft tissue, like bone does. It helps to fill space, like adipose does. It helps to store energy, like adipose stores fat, and it transports materials like blood. Blood is a connective tissue, okay? All right. Now, one of the things that's unique about these connective tissues, so epithelia, it all was basically pink blobs with purple dots, okay? Well, here we're going to see multiple different types of cells, specialized cells that are unique. Then we're going to see an extracellular matrix, a solid extracellular matrix of protein fibers. Now, that's going to be 2 very specific things. Now, remember, on the very first lecture, we said that tissues are going to be cells and cell products. In this case, when I say cell products, I mean the extracellular matrix. There is another cell product called a ground substance, a fluid extracellular ground substance. Now, these fibers of ground substance together make the matrix. Matrix is a combination of both the solid protein fibers and an extracellular ground substance. Together we have proteins, we have fibers. These make a matrix. This is an example, this matrix, extracellular matrix, is an example of cell products that are part of the tissue. Okay? These are extracellular protein fibers and the ground substance come together. I want you to imagine, if you will, 2 friends on a seesaw. On one side of the seesaw, there is fibers. And on the other side of the seesaw, there is ground substance. Now, you might have a tissue that's almost entirely fibers and hardly any ground substance. Then you might have a tissue that's almost entirely ground substance and few, if any, fibers. And everything in between. Every time we take this connective tissues extracellular matrix and change it, that determines the function. For example, bone has a very hard mineralized extracellular matrix. Cartilage has more of a gelatinous or even thicker extracellular matrix, whereas blood has a fluid extracellular matrix. Okay? Extracellular matrix determines the specialized function of that tissue. It is by far the majority of the mass. It's an important component to this. For example, you might have chondroitin sulfate making up cartilage, giving it its structure and integrity, versus calcium phosphate making up bone, hydroxyapatite, material like that making up bone. Okay, so let's take a look at this stuff. Okay, now what I want to also help you guys understand is the fibers that can make this up. We said that fibers help make it. Well, the fibers that help to make it, they can be collagen fibers. That is sometimes called white fibers. They are by far the most common in connective tissue. They're very strong and flexible. Then we're going to have elastic fibers. We call these yellow fibers. These guys stretch and recoil. They go back to original shape. And then there's reticular fibers, which is a lattice work, forms the supported networks in organs like liver, and spleen, and things like that. Okay? Now, As we look at these, there's also specialized cells. Remember, in this, it's not going to just be like stem cells and squamous. It's not shapes. There's very distinctive types of cells with very distinctive jobs and a variety. You will have a variety of cells surrounded by protein, fibers, and ground substance called matrix. Well, the fibroblasts, what these guys are, fibro meaning fiber, blast, blastose to make. These guys are the most common. They secrete fibers. They are the fiber makers. They make fibers. Okay? They make fibers. Fibroblast, blast means to make. Fibrocyte, maintain fibers. Okay? Now, adipocytes, these are fat cells. These are fat cells. They store fat. These are fat cells. This is one of the few cells, one of the few animal cells that we make anyway that have vacuoles. Now, we talk about vacuoles in Bio 1. If you took general biology before A and P, you learned about vacuoles. I talk about various vacuoles, the large central vacuole of plant cells, for example. But animal cells also have vacuoles. One of those vacuoles we talked about was the contractile vacuoles of protists, but that is another type of vacuole. All right, mesenchymal cells. These are stem cells. These are stem cells. What they do, when they divide, their daughter cells become connective tissue cells. So mesenchymal cells are stem cells. They divide. Remember, daughter cells is the name we give to cells produced through mitosis or meiosis, through cell division. When cells divide, they make daughter cells. And these daughter cells do that. Now, melanocytes or melanocytes, they make melanin. These are the cells that synthesize melanin and store melanin to give our skin pigmentation. Now, macrophages and microphages. Macrophage, this means big eater. This is a big eater. Microphage, this is a little eater. Okay? So think of these as big eaters and little eaters. Macro, big. Macrophages are my big eaters. They are large phagocytes. Big eaters. What they're going to do is they are going to eat infectious agents like bacteria. They're going to help me defend against bacterial infection. Okay? Micro, meaning little. Phage, meaning eat. These are little eaters. They're smaller phagocytes. So macrophage is my big eater. And microphage is my little eater. Okay? Mast cells. What they do is they are going to help me produce histamine and heparin. They're located near my blood vessels. They produce histamine and heparin. Histamine is an inflammatory molecule. It causes inflammation. And heparin is an anticoagulant. Okay, we're going to talk about that in AP2. We'll talk about heparin sulfate. Heparin is going against coagulation. We'll talk about what is called hemolytic versus there's anticoagulant versus a hemolytic. There's things that prevent coagulation. Then there's things that break down coagulation after it's happened. Both of which are needed in the treatment of people with blood clot disorders. Okay? So heparin, you will probably have heard of that, treatment of patients with blood clot disorders, things that affect heparin and things like that. You probably heard of it. Lymphocytes, what these guys do is they protect against diseases as well. These are a type of white blood cell. Okay? These are one of the white blood cells. These are a type of white blood cell, lymphocyte, B cells, T cells, natural killer cells, those kinds of cells. Okay, those are lymphocytes. All right. Now, so as we go through to classify this, there's going to be connective tissue proper, where we have your proteins and ground substance. It can be classified as loose connective tissue proper, where there's more ground substance and fewer fibers, or dense connective tissue proper, where there is less ground substance and more fibers. Remember me talking about the seesaw friends, the friends on the seesaw. It can go up one way or the other way, okay? Now, there's cartilage, there's bone, there's blood, there's lymph. One of the things that I wish our book did was discuss the extracellular matrix component better. That would be a thing I wish our structure sheets went into, and that I would test on myself if it's up to me. It's not the structure sheet, so I don't go over it, but I would talk about things like chondroitin, sulfate, and stuff like that. Okay. Okay. So let's get into this. Blood and lymph. Those are fluids. By the way, these are fluids. Okay. All right. Now, one of the things about loose connective tissue proper, they're going to have a lot more fibers and less ground substance. So areolar, adipose, and reticular. Okay. Fewer fibers, more ground substance. So these are quite a bit more squishy. Okay. They're quite a bit more squishy. We might say squishy or soft. Okay. They're quite a bit more squishy. So areolar, adipose, and reticular. These are squishy, soft stuff. Things that are found in our squishy things, okay? They are squishy. Areolar, as we can see, there will be fibers present, but not as many as, say, a dense regular, okay? When we look at it, the fibers go in all kinds of directions. All kinds of directions like that, okay? Like spaghetti noodles. So they have a loose, open organization of cells and fibers that run everywhere, and there is a ground substance that has collagen and elastic fibers. There's collagen fibers and elastic fibers in a variety of these cells that are present, okay? Fibroblasts, for example, are present, fibrocytes, mast cells, variety of other cells that might be present. Okay? They're found in our thin membranes in our body. For example, the pericardium, the pleura, peritoneum that we talked about in lecture. Okay? They are going to easily distort and return to shape. They're going to support and nourish the skin and bind to underlying organs. Bind the skin to the underlying organs. So, very important that we can keep this tissue areolar healthy to keep our skin healthy. Okay? I think it looks like spaghetti and meatballs, some spaghetti, maybe some spaghetti and spaghetti sauce, nice chunky spaghetti sauce. Okay? That's what I had for dinner last night, with some spaghetti. So, one of the things you're going to see about this is there are fibers, okay, running through it of various kinds, running through, and then all of these cells in a loose organization, and there will be all these fibers that run in all these directions, okay, that run in multiple directions through the tissue, all kinds of directions these fibers run, but there will be all these cells, a loose organization of cells, okay, a loose organization of cells, and fibers that run in a variety of directions is areolar, okay? These are the telltale signs. Now, what I made sure to do is include multiple different stains and images of this so you can get an idea what it looks like. One of the things I used to do back in the old days when I taught this, when I first started teaching, is I got my students in the lab and we looked under a microscope. And this is what I still do in my general biology courses. When we learn tissues, we look at it under a microscope, we look at the real thing. And here, this is online, you don't get to use a microscope. You're going to learn the tissues by looking at images and practicing with them, and then what you're going to do is identify them on a test. Okay? Now, what I want to do is, let's look at adipose. Now, I make a buttery popcorn. What we're going to see, why does it look like popcorn? Mostly white when we stain it. So you can see how this right here is mostly white. Inside is mostly white. Okay. When we stain it, the nucleus gets shoved out to the side. Okay. All these nuclei get pushed out to the side by the large fat vacuoles. Inside here is a vacuole filled with fat, filled with triglycerides. Where do we find it? Beneath the skin and around joints, padding your kidneys and other organs, and even in certain abdominal membranes. For example, the omentum, greater omentum in the abdominal membranes. Okay? Now, functions, it stores fats. Triglycerides are stored in here. Acts as an energy reserve, and it provides padding and absorbs shock. It looks like popcorn to me. I see popcorn. Okay? Sorry, I made this change. Sorry that this one, it was so good. The bottom right one was so good, but it had watermarks on it. But it was so good, I wanted to use it. Some of them had a few watermarks on it, but some of them were just so good, I wanted to use these. But they all have that popcorn look to it. This is adipose. Okay? Adipose cells. One of the reasons I like this one so much is the nuclei are readily visible, being pushed out to the side. So I really like that one very well. So these are adipose tissues under the microscope. These are various images of adipose. One of the things that I do is I want you to learn characteristics. Start looking for those descriptions, okay? Take your descriptions of what it looks like. This is why I give you these little mnemonics like, hey, this looks like popcorn. It helps you to identify what it looks like. I relate a lot to food. So this is your popcorn. Now, this one here, reticular, looks like dried dog food, and then we got some cobwebs in it. Like the Minecraft cobweb here, okay? So, we got these cells, all these little cells here. This we refer to as these cells, we call it pulp. Then we have all these fibers, reticular fibers that run through here, okay? These reticular fibers that run through it. So there's reticular fibers and cell pulp, okay? Liver, spleen, and lymph nodes will contain this tissue. It forms the complex three-dimensional network of liver, spleen, and lymph nodes. So that's what it does. Now, when we look at it, all of these, one of the two big things is we have these reticular fibers here, okay, that we're looking at. These fibers are reticular fibers. Reticular references that it's a lattice. Reticular basically means it's a lattice work, okay? And so we have all these reticular fibers that we can see in this. All these little black lines, that's reticular fibers. Then we have all this cell pulp. We have all the pulp, okay? We have the pulp, cell pulp in here, all these little cells. All this cell pulp, lots and lots of pulp with few of these reticular fibers. So there's lots of cell pulp, okay, and reticular fibers are present. We can easily see these, okay? That's why I'm highlighting some of the fibers so you can get the characteristics down, okay? Cell pulp and reticular fibers. Now, the dense regular connective tissue proper is going to be less ground substance, more fibers. So we're going to be looking for very fibrous stuff. All of these things are going to be quite fibrous. Okay, quite fibrous. So, depending on how the fibers may go in the same direction or different directions. Dense regular, dense, the fibers are densely packed and they go in the same direction, regular. Dense irregular, the fibers are densely packed but they don't go in the same direction. And elastic, it's going to have elastic fibers. These are going to be highly fibrous, okay? Now, the first one I think looks like bacon. Looks like bacon. Now, collagen is going to be, all these collagen fibers are going the same direction. Okay? They're all going that way. They're all going like that. They're all in the same direction. Okay? So this makes these fibers regular. Notice also that they are fairly tightly packed. So they are also densely packed. They are dense. Hence, dense regular. They are tightly packed and parallel with the direction of force. So being tightly packed, dense, parallel, regular. Okay? Tendons and ligaments, this also includes aponeuroses, they are going to be stability and the exertion of force is what they're going to function in doing. When we look at these, they all are going in the same direction. Okay? The fibers are all running in the same direction. Sorry, sometimes my pen will change all the fibers go in the same direction. It's annoying that my pen will sometimes change the orientation. So they all go in the same direction. Okay? So the fibers running the same direction, they're densely packed, dense regular. Okay? Now, elastic, it's going to look a little bit like dense regular. Kind of basically think it's a dense regular, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sneak some elastic fibers in on it. We're going to take some elastic fibers and squeeze them in. Now, to me, it looks like lasagna. It's going to look like a lasagna. If we look at a lasagna on the side, it's going to look like a nice lasagna. Okay? Lasagna. Okay? Why do I say it looks like lasagna? Look at the side of this. It looks like lasagna noodles. Okay? Really looks like lasagna noodles. Okay? Lasagna. These all look like lasagnas. Okay? They look like lasagna. And you can see it really well in these images here. Lasagna noodle shape. How the fibers run like lasagna. Okay? Dense irregular. To me, it looks like hamburger meat. The fibers don't run in one direction. They go everywhere. They go everywhere. Okay? They go everywhere. They are running in bundles, but the collagen fibers, okay, are running, but they go in multiple directions, many directions, like hamburger meat. You will find this in the periosteum of bone, in the joint capsules surrounding your muscles, and in the reticular layer of the dermis. It forms a network with no pattern and provides strength and support in areas that have stress in them, especially when the stresses go in many directions. Okay, now, see how all these have fibers going in different directions. Some are going like this. Some are going side to side, some are going at angles, some are going this way, some are going front to back. So they are moving in different directions. So this is dense irregular. Okay? Now we'll see blood and lymph. No fibers in the matrix. These are fluid. Okay? Blood and lymph are fluids. These are fluid connective tissues. Okay? Now, the first one, blood, I think it looks like Cheerios, a bowl of Cheerios. Blood, we have three kinds of what we call formed elements. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. And they're going to be like the little bits of cereal floating in the milk. The cells will be the cereal. The milk would be the plasma. And because the milk is outside the cells, plasma is outside the cells, that is the extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix, the fluid matrix of blood, is called plasma. Okay? Now, there are stem cells in the red bone marrow, and it will give rise to red blood cells called erythrocytes. And then white blood cells, leukocytes. and platelets, thrombocytes. Okay? Erythrocytes, leukocytes, thrombocytes. Where do we find it? In the circulatory system. Okay? What does it do? It transports substances through the body. Now, lastly is, so here's blood. We can see all these red blood cells. Here's some white blood cells. Lymphocyte, eosinophil, neutrophil, things like that. Red blood cells, little platelets here. So these are all blood. These are all blood. We have red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets all seen here. Different types of blood cells, so we can see them. Nice look at blood. Easy to see as blood. Nice, easy one to identify as blood. Now, lymph. This is the only image I have of lymph. Lymph is a fluid. What we do, how I got this, what this picture is lymphocytes. What they did is they took a needle and stuck it in the lymph node, drew the fluid out, and squirted it out. It's called a lymph node aspirate. So these are lymphocytes. These are all lymphocytes. Basically, what we have is lymphocytes suspended in a fluid. Okay? So it's fluid and lymphatic, called lymph, fluid found in lymphatic vessels. It's very much going to be like your interstitial fluid in composition. In A&P2, we'll see why in a couple chapters. We'll learn why it is. First, we'll learn it in the circulation chapter. Then we'll see it in lymph, and we'll talk about that it is very similar to interstitial fluid. We'll talk about interstitial fluid several times in the semester in A&P2. The lymphatic system is where we find it. It recirculates fluid and helps maintain homeostasis, and we monitor it for infections. So it helps you fight infections. Okay? Now, the last ones will be bone and cartilage. We have supporting connective tissue, bone and cartilage. These are far harder. Okay? Now, bone is harder than cartilage, but these guys are kind of hard or stiff. Okay? So they are at least hard or stiff. Okay? They are going to be able to create structure. Okay? Now, bone is going to have a strong, it's going to be very strong, but it can resist shattering. It's calcium salts deposited along with collagen proteins. It's organized in a circular structure called an osteon. Okay? This osteon is going to have a few things going on about it. First off, we'll talk about that it's in the skeletal system and it's support and protection. But one of the things we're going to have in the middle is the central canal with cells that are inside these little chambers here called lacuna. The lacuna hold osteocytes. Okay? The lacuna hold osteocytes. Now they're around the central canal. Then these little cracks right here are canaliculi. Canaliculi or canaliculi. Canaliculi. Okay, and around the bone is the periosteum. That's the membrane of the bone's surface. Okay. Now the three kinds of cartilage. To me, this looks like tree rings. Okay. Now here is bone. Pretty easy to see bone. We can see all the structures. We can see the central canal, the osteons, the central canal, the lacuna, and the canaliculi. Okay? You can see these all on these images. Now, cartilage is going to have a gel-like ground substance. The cells instead of being called osteocytes, they are called chondrocytes. They're in lacuna as well, and they're for shock absorption. I like to think about these chondrocytes and the lacuna. I like to think it makes cartilage look like Swiss cheese, like a block of Swiss cheese. Okay? where all these little gas bubbles form from the bacteria that help make the cheese. All right, the hyaline cartilage. What are we going to do? Well, we have lacuna. Now, one of the things it says, lacuna gets squeezed together. Now, one of the things I'm going to say about this is not entirely an easy way to learn it. Lacuna are compressed and squeezed together. Not my favorite description, but I like this better. Chondrocytes are in lacuna in 2s and 3s. Okay? They're in there in 2s and 3s. Okay? Here is one lacuna and 2 cells. They're the only one that does that, where can be 2 or even sometimes 3 cells, but they will at least more than one cell will be in a lacuna. Okay? They're the only ones that do that, where 2 cells are in a lacuna. Okay? One of my students said it looked like deer hooves. Looked like deer hoof prints. Look at the hoof prints of deer. The lacuna kind of look like hoof prints of deer in the snow or in the dirt. Deer leaving hoof prints. There are collagen fibers in the matrix, but you won't really see them because of the stain used. The collagen fibers won't be visible. They are located in the synovial joints, connecting the rib tips, the sternum, the nasal septum, and your trachea. It is stiff, but it's flexible, and it reduces friction between your bones. To me, it looks like Swiss cheese because of the holes. Cartilages look like Swiss cheese. Now, one of the things about this is, especially in some of these, is you will see one lacuna and more than one cell per lacuna. Okay? That is the big thing. You will see one lacuna and more than one cell per lacuna. This is the only cartilage that does that. So that is a very telltale sign that it is a cartilage that's hyaline cartilage. Okay? Now, elastic cartilage kind of looks like some black-eyed peas or some beans to me. It's going to have elastic fibers in the matrix. So that's going to show up. You're going to see these lacuna. Okay? So we definitely can see the fibers between the cells. All these fibers between the cells, heavily seen. And we have lacuna. Okay? Cells in lacuna. But you're not going to have the multiple cells hanging out in one lacuna like we do with hyaline. And then here, I always thought this looked like bubble wrap because each one lacuna per lacuna are very usually evenly distributed. A lot of these pictures of the lacuna look pretty even. But one of the things is collagen fibers in the matrix. That's collagen. You will see collagen fibers in the matrix. Okay? Collagen fibers should be in the matrix that you should see. Collagen fibers. We can see the lacuna in the cartilage. Okay? Like bubble wrap. Usually kind of more evenly distributed. Okay? All right. They're going to be found between your pubic bones and your intervertebral disc, what we call cartilaginous joints. They pad your menisci, they form the knee pads, meniscus. They help to limit movement within bone-to-bone contact. Now, one of the things that it takes is time to get the locations of functions down. It's my job to help you see what these tissues are and why they are what they are. Okay? The lacuna and all this collagen fibers. Okay? All right, we're going to stop here and pick up with the next one. And we got our part 3 coming up. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.